Hello Chipmunk and Chipette fans, my name is Grandy Tamias, and welcome to part 2 of my Alvin and the Chipmunks Elaborations voice acting history video. If you have not seen part 1, please be sure to check that out first, as it provides context that is crucial for understanding the state of voice acting prior to the Fox movies, in contrast to afterwards and the potential future state of voice acting in this franchise that I'll be covering later on in this part. Without any further ado, let's pick up where we left off and take a big leap into live action to find out who voiced the main and some miscellaneous characters in the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies that most of us grew up with. During the development of the 2007 movie, Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Carmen were initially going to voice the Chipmunk characters again, but Fox rejected the idea and instead wanted star power. Alvin was voiced by Justin Long, who, honestly, the only other thing I know him for is as the voice of Patchy in the 2013 Walking with Dinosaurs movie. Matthew Gray Gubler played the voice of Simon, another actor who I'm not that familiar with, but I know he was in CBS's Criminal Minds. And rounding out the first film's Chipmunk cast was Jesse McCartney as Theodore, who was in the boy band Dream Street before going on to have a solo career. So it's nice to have an actual singer in a role like this when music is as important to the character as it is to him. Jesse also went on to do other voice roles, such as Robin in Young Justice, and JoJo in the Horton Hears a Who movie from Blue Sky. Rest in peace, Blue Sky. And f*** Disney for that. In the Squeakquel, the Chipettes were introduced and were cast with names arguably bigger than the Chipmunks, such as Christina Applegate for Britney. I haven't seen anything else she's been in, but I know she's famous for Fox's Married with Children and the Anchorman movies. Anna Faris played the voice of Jeanette. She voiced Sam Sparks in the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs films. And finally, Amy Poehler played the voice of Eleanor, who you probably know as Leslie from Parks and Rec and Joy from Inside Out. I'd say the Chipettes were well cast and complemented the Chipmunks' movie voices pretty well. But I can't help but feel I'm forgetting someone. Oh right, Digger from that one scene that honestly feels like a commercial tie-in to the film that somehow got spliced into the film. Seriously, this is an actual Deus Ex Machina, and if CinemaSins calls it out as such when they cover this film, I will remove a sin when I cover that video. Regardless, Digger was a CGI character with a voice, which was provided by Eric Bauza, who you may know from the current era of Looney Tunes, Tiger Claw from TMNT 2012, and Puss in Boots from The Adventures of Puss in Boots. Chipwrecked didn't have any new Chipmunks per se, but we did get a new character with a Chipmunk voice in the form of Simon's spider venom-induced alter ego, Simone, voiced by Alan Tudyk, known for roles such as King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph, K2SO from Rogue One, Sonny from I, Robot, the number 4 robot from the recent James Gunn Superman movie, and he's another Transformers voice actor, as he was Optimus Prime in the Earthspark series. Man, the guy voices a lot of robots. Actually, he was involved in Transformers even before that, as he was Simmons' butler Dutch from Dark of the Moon.
I'm so sorry, that is the old me.
Aside from Dutch, Simone was the first thing that I ever knew Tudyk as, so I hold a special place in my heart for the character, as brief and arbitrary as his existence was. Rest in peace, Simone. Just to briefly mention Road Chip, all of the previous Chipmunk and Chipette movie voices returned, except for Amy Poehler, with Eleanor's voice instead being provided by Kaylee Cuoco, most famous for playing Penny from The Big Bang Theory. And finally, we get to the 2015 series. Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Carmen would reprise their roles as Dave, the Chipmunks, and Chipettes from the 80s cartoon, except for Eleanor. This time, she was voiced by their daughter, Vanessa Bagdasarian. And I gotta say, she's my favorite Eleanor voice so far. Vanessa brings out the feisty and sassy side of Eleanor, and it's so entertaining to hear her bounce off the line deliveries of her mother and father. Vanessa's brother Michael also joined the cast, and while he never voiced a chipmunk, at least not full-time, he was on the show in almost every episode due to voicing a lot of the miscellaneous male human characters. Some of the more prominent ones he voiced being Derek, Bo Carter, Cheesy, and Officer Dangus. And I say he never voiced a chipmunk full-time, but he did voice Alvin in the episode Best in Shoe because Alvin was doing a French accent for most of the episode. Janice and Vanessa also frequently contributed to voicing recurring and one-off human characters. In fact, Janice by far did the most voices on the show, as in addition to Theodore, Brittany, and Jeanette, she also voiced Miss Smith, Miss Croner, Miss Miller, replacing the by then late Dodie Goodman, Kevin, Gizmo, and most other background characters. Vanessa didn't have as many frequent roles, but she did voice many of the teenage girls at the high school and small child characters like Bo Carter's brother Neville and the kid version of Dave from the episode Davy Boy. I do want to briefly mention the IMDb page for this show, as it is, at present, very screwed up. Like, come on. There are more than 66 episodes, and when the hell was Weird Al on the show, and as Dave of all characters? But the name Michael Klein is correct to be here. An informant of mine told me that Mr. Klein was the voice of Warren, one of the nerdy kids who hangs out with Kevin and Cheesy. So those are most of the voices on the show. There were some other very minor voices, but for most of them, I couldn't reliably confirm who voiced who, and they were nowhere near as prevalent as the Bagdasarians. Though it is known that the character of Biggie Large, from the episode Little T, and Season 2's Let's Make a Deal, was voiced by Haitian-American actor Jean Elie. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, because, well, I don't want to come off in an offensive way, but come on, this is a character that no white person could make feel authentic. I also just so happened to check Jean Elie's website, and he has a screenshot from Little T. Interesting. Amy Mullins from Run, Amy Run was another character not voiced by one of the Bagdasarians, as she actually exists in real life. She's an actress and athlete who is an amputee. And honestly, I had never heard of her prior to this, and I'm curious how her opportunity on the show came about. Did the Bagdasarians already know her, or was the episode some kind of cross-promotion for Amy's athletic career? Whatever the case, her being on the show was a huge deal in and of itself, as Amy has a greater deal of mainstream film and TV experience than most of the show's cast, owing to the fact that she played Terry Ives, aka Eleven's mom, from Stranger Things. Very fascinating. That's all I have to say in regards to the voice actors, but there are also some voice oddities in the show. For instance, some of the episodes in the later seasons had moments where the Chipmunk characters speak with the wrong voice. It happens with the Chipettes twice in the Season 3 episode The Wall, first when Brittany speaks with Eleanor's voice.
Oh, the little crazy guy from, the sea.
And then when Eleanor speaks with Jeanette's voice.
Yeah, I don't think that will help.
Probably just a case of the animators at Technicolor losing track of which character says what. Actually, as I was gathering screen caps for this video, I came across another one from Best in Shoe, where Eleanor speaks with the voice of Brittany.
Oh man, how long is this supposed to last?
The context in which it's said sounds right, so maybe this was a mix-up on Bagdasarian's end. But that's nothing compared to an even more baffling case in Season 1's Who's the Animal? In this episode, Alvin loses his voice and gets his place swapped with a baby Tasmanian devil after a visit to a wildlife park. Throughout this episode, Simon's voice inexplicably goes back and forth between sounding like Ross Bagdasarian Jr.'s Simon voice.
Yeah, it's peaceful. Alvin can't talk. Well, I'm going to the reptilian rescue shelter.
And Matthew Gray Gubler's Simon voice from the Fox movies.
All the characteristics of the Sarcophilus harisi. We have to get that baby back to the zoo before they take Alvin into surgery by mistake. Uncle Ian hired us a housekeeper. She's also a masseuse. Ay, Dios mío, Dave is going to propose tonight.
Keep in mind, this episode came out only a few months before Road Trip. But even then, I'm not sure how, if it really is Matthew, how Bagdasarian got him on the show, when the movies were handled by Fox. Monkopedia offers a plausible hypothesis about why this case occurred in the first place. Because Ross voices both Alvin and Simon, in addition to Dave, Alvin's lack of a voice during most of the episode may have been written into the script due to Ross being unavailable for whatever reason, and so they had to find someone else to voice Simon. However, Ross was able to record all of his lines for Dave with no problem, and this episode does homage an 80s episode with a similar premise, except with the Tasmanian devil replacing a wild chipmunk. Whether that homage was intentional from the start and Ross's unavailability was a coincidence, or was written later because of it, we don't know. I'd say that's as crazy as voice issues get with the show, but they're far from the most prevalent. For as much praise as I can give the Bagdasarian family for their voice work, I feel like after a while, you can tell that there are some similarities in the voices that they play. Like in the episode Overlooked, Janice voices this invisible woman in Alvin's dream sequence who sounds exactly like Miss Smith.
Hey, who threw that?
You'll never know.
And depending on the scene and episode, some of the lines that she voices for Theodore and Brittany sound very close to each other.
I don't want to leave. I love my bed. I want a bath. And I want to sleep in my own bed.
Also, Ross voices this news anchor in the episode Reality or Not, which sounds very close to his Dave voice.
In other news, everyone who is anyone now has their own reality TV show.
But I don't want to make it seem like I'm singling out bad instances, as there are so many examples in the show, and some aren't as severe as others if you're not trained on what to listen for. So I don't want to make it seem like the Bagdasarians are bad at voice acting. Quite the opposite, actually. I really respect their willingness and effort to differentiate these voices. None of these people are at Mel Blanc levels of vocal range, but they do the job. And to think the Bagdasarians didn't go to school for this kind of thing and had to teach themselves over the years of doing this show. And it's not like I can say I'm any better at voice acting, despite how reliant my channel is on voiceover, and the reason I know a lot of you like my videos. I don't claim to have the range of voice acting like Janice Carmen, let alone the industry legends. It's all the more impressive for the Bagdasarians when you consider that they have to pace their voices at half speed for the chipmunk characters and maintain those differences in their voices throughout. So their family has pioneered this technique, or at least are one of the last still using it. As far as what I can say about the future of voice acting in this franchise, Ross Jr. and Janice are pretty old, so I doubt they'll voice the Chipmunks again for a new series. Vanessa and Michael, and probably any other family members close to them, could take over all of the Chipmunk and Chipette voices, as well as Dave if this franchise stays in the family. If we get another movie, whether it be live action or animated, whatever studio makes it will probably push for celebrities, as is typical of them. And again, looking to Transformers, their recent attempt at launching an animated film subset of the franchise with Transformers 1 had actors like Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, and Brian Tyree Henry. Actors who are even bigger than any of the ones who voiced the Chipmunks and Chipettes in the Fox films. It would be a huge risk if a new AATC film had a celebrity stunt cast as big as that, as Transformers 1 proved it can still fail, even though that was part of a much bigger franchise. Though to be fair, TF1's marketing kinda sucked. I think studios would also be at least partially incentivized to use big names for an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie if they had confidence in the IP itself, which is hard for reasons that explaining would detour the topic of this video. It also occurred to me, big names are something of a rarity in this franchise. I mean, I don't think they get any bigger than Jason Lee and David Cross, who I wouldn't call A-listers, and didn't even voice Chipmunk characters. Likewise, I may not have been around in the 80s, but I know Susan Tyrrell and Anthony DeLongis, the biggest names the Chipmunk Adventure had, were not A-listers either. And I'm not saying I want today's big names like Tom Holland or Anya Taylor-Joy as voices of Alvin and the Chipmunks characters. But I would like it if relatively young actors around their age or younger were cast, like was the case with the Chipmunks in the 2007 film. Though I would like if they also chose actors with good singing voices, as other than Jesse McCartney, none of the Fox film cast had a background in singing. And I'm not sure, but I don't think even Jesse did Theodore's singing voice in the movies, as none of the other actors did. They always had stand-ins whenever the characters were singing. In a previous video, I fan-casted Lana Condor as Jeanette, since she already has a background in voice acting, has done some singing as well, is younger than 30, and is one of those up-and-coming actresses gaining prominence in things like Coyote vs. Acme. Timothée Chalamet is another name I could see doing a chipmunk voice, since I thought he did a good job singing in Wonka. I'd cast him as Simon. I don't want to go through every chipmunk and chipette for the sake of time, but I'd love to hear more suggestions from you guys. Whatever the case, I think celebrity casts like that for the next Alvin and the Chipmunks film would be far more likely than us getting a Ross Bagdasarian Sr. biopic, even though that would likely be a cheaper to produce film and safer return on investment that could still keep the franchise active while gauging interest in the Chipmunks again. Shameless plug for that ancient video of mine. Anyway, feel free to let me know in the comments, how do you feel about the Bagdasarian family's voice work, and what are your hopes for the voice cast in a potential future Alvin and the Chipmunks film? If you'd like to suggest a topic for a future elaboration video, you can leave it in the comments as well. And don't forget that if you want to follow me outside of my videos, you can join my Discord server or follow me on Twitter. Links to both will be in the description. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day, and thank you for your time.